Hey, what's going on, everybody? Hey, thank you guys for allowing me the opportunity to give a brief today. Today, I'm going to be talking about the Department of Defense Education Activity, also known as Dodea. I have a little bit of experience with this because I too was a Dodea teacher. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you a little bit of the history of Dodea, uh, kind of talk a little bit about, where it came from, why we're overseas in general, and then finish off with kind of what are the kids like a little bit, as far as what is the demographic of Dodea students. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Just shoot me an email, and here we go. So welcome. So Dodea stands for the Department of Defense Education Activity, and that is the organization. Sorry about that. That is the organization that basically oversees all the military schools on all the bases overseas and at home here in the United States. Dodea is a massive organization because it's all over the globe. It's broken into three groups, which I'll show you here in a little bit. We have Dodea America, Dodea Pacific, and Dodea Europe. I taught in Europe, so I'm going to kind of keep the focus in Europe a little bit. So I apologize beforehand, but if I had a whole day to explain it all to you, it probably wouldn't be enough. So I'm going to do my best to try to get through as much information as I possibly can in the next few minutes here. So why are we overseas? Why are we in Europe? Why do we have military bases all over the globe? Well, that's a really good question. And, a lot of people want to debate this and talk about it. And, why are we there? And, whatever the reason is. But I can tell you, as someone that has lived that life for a better part of a decade, I can tell you firsthand that it is necessary, it is needed, it is wanted, and it makes us all better, which is something I don't think a lot of people really understand. It does so much good that I don't think people can even put a price tag on it. That's my personal thoughts on that. But we have military installations all over the globe. A lot of them are there for peacekeeping missions, for maintaining stability, for letting other nations know that, hey, this is not a good idea to cross that border, buddy, at the 38th parallel. It does. It keeps the world in check. It keeps certain aggressor nations at bay. But more importantly, the thing that I really don't think enough people really get is the benefits that we get out of it, because we get a ton of benefits out of it just from a personnel and people standpoint. Because at the end of the day, we're sending our best and brightest to foreign countries, and they are learning firsthand in those places how to get along, how to speak foreign languages, how to learn about the cultures of different countries on earth. And I really do think that's priceless. I want to share with you a short little video about NATO, because that's where I worked for the better part of a decade. And the one thing about NATO is there's a lot of languages. So if you can imagine working on a military base where every one of these languages, plus about another dozen more since this video was made, are spoken, and then try to teach those kids English in those different languages, I just kind of want you to I think this is a good video that gives you a little bit of a sense of what we deal with.
Europeo das Línguas.
Nous célébrons la diversité linguistique.
Nella nostra organizzazione.
Mi smo savez 29 članica NATO
en aansluitend veel partnernaties.
Our native languages
sont peut-être différents και οι πολιτισμοί μας
unikāls.
dar împreună.
Oleme kui üks.
ne jemi NATO.
Biz NATOs.
Mi sme NATO.
Nie sme NATO.
Somos la OTAN.
Mi vagyunk a NATO.
Via NATO.
Wir sind NATO.
Jesteśmy w NATO.
Via NATO.
Mi smo NATO.
Wij zijn NATO.
Mi smo NATO.
Við erum NATO.
Mi sme NATO.
Wir sind NATO.
We are NATO.
So why do we have all these military bases? Well, after World War II ends, I'm not gonna get into history a whole lot, but after World War II ends, we left a lot of bases overseas. A lot of them in Germany, Holland, Italy, and the bigger ones are still there today and still going pretty strong. Actually, we actually just built a new one, I think, in Italy not too long ago. But what people don't realize is that for every airman, every soldier, sailor, you need support. And so if you run by, someone told me the numbers years ago, and they said, for every one airman, it's usually 8 to 10 people that are non-military folks, that are civilians, contractors, whatever, that support the person, that role, to do their job. It's a huge number. And so working overseas, you need infrastructure, you need schools, you need to be able to take care of the families that are doing this kind of work, so that they can keep our forces fit and ready to fight. And so it's a very important it's a very important job. So going back a little bit, looking at the world globally, the U.S. military presence is pretty significant. If you look at all these, the countries shaded in blue, those are places where U.S. military installations are. They're not always that big. Like, so for instance, I know that some of these countries, like the base there is maybe 50, 60 people, like at most, but it's a presence and it's a foothold, and and oftentimes those folks are there to offer support, stability, helping, you name it. One of the things that I don't think that a lot of people fully understand is that the Department of Defense and our U.S. forces do a lot of good in the world. So I know, we're toting guns and running around, and, we got tanks and bombs and all that stuff. But what I don't think a lot of people get is that, there's a very significant humanitarian mission that is undertaken in a lot of these countries by the DoD. If you look at, just think about it. Like, think about the last earthquake that happened, or the last tsunami, or the last whatever. You're not seeing the Russians dropping perishable food items. You're not seeing the Chinese bring in portable power stations and hospital ships. Like, you don't see that. But you do see a United States aircraft carrier, and you do see the USS Mercy pulling up to render aid. And I think that speaks volumes about the kind of work that we do overseas. So I'm gonna get off my horse here and keep going here. So I'm not gonna show you the whole video, but I'm gonna show you a little bit of it, kind of give you an idea of, this is a little bit of an older video, but I think it gives a really good sense by the numbers of what the forces are, as far as USER goes. That's U.S. Army Europe, and what and a little bit more about what their mission is. So here you go.
This is a pivotal moment for our alliance. In the nearly 70 years of NATO, perhaps never have we faced such a range of challenges all at once. In this challenging moment, I want to take this opportunity to state clearly what will never change, and that is the unwavering commitment of the United States to the security and defense of Europe, to our commitment to our common defense.
To meet new security challenges, we're adapting, using a new playbook, an approach that is both strong and balanced. NATO allies are only growing more united.
We are shifting from assurance to deterrence, and USER has been leading the way here in the change we have in Europe.
The readiness of our land forces is always going to be an essential part of deterrence. It requires capability. It requires demonstrate the will to use that capability. An important part of that is speed. We've started with recent exercises, working on all the things that we need to do to be able to move quickly, assemble quickly, and deter possible aggression.
The number of troops we have in Europe forward stationed today on a permanent basis is somewhere around 30,000 or so, and that is significantly smaller than we've had in decades past. So the rotational forces play a key role in that.
This is an opportunity for the regionally allocated force to work with our multinational allies in a complex environment every day, and we will continue to develop those relationships because the interoperability is key.
Army Reserves and National Guard units are the lifeblood of making 30,000 soldiers look like 300,000 soldiers, and they are working and training with our multinational partners and allies here in Europe.
And this is the way we're going to fight conflicts in the future. So if we're going to fight this way, we need to train this way.
You know, how you build a relationship, it has to be founded on trust. And then we have to have continuity. And so the State Partnership Program, to me, provides those two things when we're trying to build long-term relationships.
So it is really important to work with other nations together, as close as you can, and even before an operation starts.
We know that we need each other, but we know also that we can rely on each other. We've experienced that in many missions where we have been working and fighting shoulder by shoulder.
U.S. Army Europe relies on networks and systems to provide critical services to support command and control capability for our forces and work with our allies. In today's environment, we face an ever-increasing threat to our cybersecurity, which means that we have to work together with our allies and partners to protect and defend our networks across U.S. Army Europe and the Alliance.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop right there. So kind of give you a little bit of sense of, you know, why we're over there, but you know, what is it actually like to be on a military base overseas? Well, boy, that is a whole other if I only had an entire day to talk about it. The picture on the left is kind of, I think, gives a kind of a good idea. That is RPX back in Belgium. The PX is the grocery store. It's an American grocery store. You can buy American products there. That is the uniform of one of the football players for our base shape. And you know, I tell people, imagine coaching football in West Texas, right, where you're in this tiny small town. The entire community comes out for every single football game, every single basketball game. It's a big deal to be on the cheer squad. You know, lots of apple pie and you know, rah rah rah, and it is a unique experience. And then you throw in the international component to it, and it just is, it is something I mean, it is something out of this world. Like, you will not see an environment like this anywhere else on earth. So anyway, what we're going to do here is I want to kind of give you a little idea of just how big Dodea is by the numbers here. So, you know, 163 schools worldwide, with one virtual school, but they're broken into three very distinct regions. Dodea Americas, which used to be known as DDES, is the schools that are here in the United States. Those schools have a pretty normal, other than the fact they're on a military base, like they're going to go play the local high schools on the other side of town. They're gonna, you know, they're not gonna, they're gonna participate in local activities, and life there is, for all intents and purposes, pretty normal. Europe and the Pacific, on the other hand, it's very, very different. Europe, you know, the school districts there are very spread out. But you know, if you're going to go play a football game in Belgium, you know, your shortest trip is 6 hours. You know, you're gonna have to cross the channel. Sometimes you got to fly to Spain. It is, you know, if you're going to coach in this system, I'm just going to warn you, don't do it while you're married. Hint, hint. And then the Pacific, forget about it. You're, you know, when you're traveling from one school to another, you're talking like thousands of miles across the Pacific. Like, the distances between the schools in the Pacific are like incredible. But as I was saying, all three of these regions are very distinct in how they operate and do things. So what they're doing in the Pacific is not always the same as they're doing in Europe. We do have a lot of common curriculum. Things are made to be very similar, so kids can interchange no problem when they get when their folks get redeployed and restationed. But the operating day to day is a little bit different from each other. So at any rate, let me talk a little bit about, the history of Dodea and where it comes from, and kind of give you a little bit of a breakdown of where we're at today.
All right, let's settle down now. Good morning, class. In today's lesson, we'll be setting out on an adventure around the world to explore the Department of Defense education activities' fascinating past. We'll travel to many different countries and discover exciting cultures from all around the globe, and we may even see some familiar settings along the way. So come along as we explore the many places of Dodea. Dodea can trace its roots in the continental United States all the way back to the early 19th century, when the U.S. cavalry was moving west across the frontier. Since that time, Dodea has expanded its footprint within the U.S. to include schools in New York, Virginia, Kentucky, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Alabama. We also operate schools in the U.S. territories of Puerto Rico and Guam. While Dodea has a long tradition of educating military children within the United States, our overseas presence was not established until the mid-20th century. At the end of the Second World War, the United States recognized the need to stabilize war-torn areas of the world. United States service members remained stationed at bases overseas. Soon their families would join them, and the need for a quality education for their children became clear. In 1946, the Dependent Schools Service opened 38 elementary schools and 5 high schools throughout Europe and the Pacific. Over the next decade, student enrollment would steadily increase as the DoD opened schools in Cuba, Bermuda, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Spain, France, the United Kingdom, Germany, Austria, Italy, Morocco, Libya, Eritrea, Korea, Japan, the Philippines, and Midway. During the tumultuous 60s and 70s, we saw increased conflicts around the world. As a result, the number of new U.S. military installations grew. The number of Dodea teachers and students grew as well. More schools were opened to accommodate the growing numbers of military children who needed an education. New courses and curriculum were implemented to reflect the diverse cultures of our school's host nations. We added new schools in Canada, the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago, Portugal, Belgium, the Netherlands, Denmark, Greece, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, Pakistan, South Vietnam, and Taiwan. At the height of the Cold War during the 80s and 90s, geopolitical concerns helped reshape Dodea's global footprint once again. Dodea continued to deliver a world-class education to military-connected children. It opened new schools in new nations such as Panama, Bahrain, and Antigua, while still maintaining many schools on established installations in familiar countries. And Dodea teachers continue to educate students with the same level of dedication and professionalism we still see today. From our earliest days as a nation, a strong defense has been a keystone of America's success. To accomplish this mission, our impact and contribution to the readiness of the force has always been paramount. A laser-like focus on teaching and learning has better enabled our warriors and DoD civilians to make lasting contributions to our nation's defense, and indeed the defense of freedom around the world. In 1946, the DSS had an enrollment of 1,297 students. Today, there are more than 73,000 students attending Dodea schools worldwide. It is estimated that nearly 15 million students have passed through our schools around the world over the past 70 years. These numbers are a testament to Dodea's commitment to military families and their school-aged children. The same compassion, dedication, concern, and commitment to excellence in teaching that began in converted Quonset hut classrooms in Japan and Germany continues today in our state-of-the-art 21st century schools across the globe.
So, we kind of have two distinct systems. I mean, we have 3 areas, but 2 distinct systems. You have the overseas group, which is Dodea Pacific, Dodea Europe, and then you have Dodea Americas, which is all the schools that are here, obviously. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about that, but it is important to recognize that they're very distinct in all the things they do. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But I also wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about, what is it like to go to school on a military base in a foreign country? You know, experiences are always different, but I can tell you that, most of the kids that I've seen in my 10 years overseas have got to do some pretty amazing things that other kids in the States just, will never get to do. So a couple things, I was digging through old pictures trying to find some stuff here to show you. Unfortunately, all my good stuff's back in Virginia. But it is not uncommon to be like, hey, let's get on an airplane to go fly a football game. This is our coaching staff after we just played a football game outside of Rome for playoffs one year about 10 years ago. And it's like, the whole team got to go play a football game in Rome. How cool is that? My track team down below, you can tell I'm a coach here, right? One of my stud students broke the school record in the mile on the track at Cambridge. And for those of you guys who don't know what that field house is in the background, that's the field house from Chariots of Fire, the movie where where they actually broke the 4-minute mile, like back in like 1930 or whatever. It's a very famous hallowed ground for track and field, and so getting to even run a race there was incredible. And then of course, American football is not a big thing in Europe, so we've always struggled to find places to play games. And every now and then you get to play a football game in like a pretty crazy place, like in front of a chateau in the middle of downtown Brussels. Which, when were you ever going to get to do that the rest of your high school career? So there's some kind of cool things that you'll get to see as a Dodds kid. Academics are top notch. There's AP in like every single high school. There's advanced classes that probably would not exist stateside, because they really have an emphasis on trying to get as much services as we can to students, getting them involved in as much things as they possibly can. Living overseas can be tough if your parents are deployed and you're in a foreign country all by yourself for long periods of time. It's important that we're trying to support those families the best way we can, and a lot of that involves activities and doing some really cool things. One of the things that my class got to do every year, we took them to go to CERN and talk to physicists about the collider and how things work and operate. And I'll never forget standing there and talking to one of the Italian physicists, and he turns and looks at me and goes, "Oh, you're an American. Have you ever watched this TV show called The Big Bang Theory? We love it." It was really funny. But it's experiences like that you just really can't put a price tag on, which is pretty cool. So I want to show you this short little video clip because I think this gives a good idea of what you're dealing with when it comes to the international component. You have like international schools, and then you have like just pure American military base schools where it's mostly Americans. But even in those situations, like say like a base in Germany where it's mostly American kids, a lot of those American kids, they might have German mothers or fathers, and they're dual language, trilingual proficient. And so the ESL thing is huge when you're working in the Dodea community. So here you go.
There are 13 international schools.
Try it again.
There are 13 international schools on base. In terms of size, we are the biggest and also the most diverse because we are 48% American and 52% international military students representing 30 countries. So we are very diverse and we celebrate that diversity every day. Of course, there's always the expectation that when they're here, they speak English. So being such a diverse student body, one of our challenges are for students to learn English and learn it fast. And that's why we have a very strong ESL program, English as Second Language program.
This community is so diverse, and it's not just Europe-wide even. We have kids from all over, and sometimes even their alphabet, it's not even the same. So having a strong ESL program is really important if we want to include them into all the other curricular activities as well. You know, this is an American school in Belgium, so we may be speaking English in here, but outside, you know, they're speaking French. So they're exposed to 2 new languages, 2 new cultures. But to see the progression is quite amazing. By December, some of these kids are fluently speaking and reading and writing. It's just the progression is so quick.
Things that we see.
I think what makes it work so well is the way the people work together, and not only just within SHAPE. I mean, I'm talking about like the ISSs that we can contact, and the amount of support that we have top down, I think helps tremendously. And we couldn't have strong programs if we didn't have strong resources or people coming in to help us.
So one thing that that I think is unique to Dodea students is the fact that a lot of them, you could consider them as third culture kids. And I don't know if you know what this is or not, but it's a thing. It's a real thing. Being a third culture kid is kind of cool, actually. It basically means that you're living in a culture other than your parents or the culture of the country of your nationality. But it also means you're probably a little bit more worldly than most of your peers and counterparts stateside. And I've been very blessed to be able to work with these kinds of kids, and I can tell you that they are oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? There's some quirks to them that are just an absolute delight. It's the only way I can describe it. And so I do have a short little video here to kind of give you an idea of, I think this kind of sums up a little bit of what that experience is like from the kids' viewpoint. So here you go.
I used to dream in America. I used to dream of like going to the Eiffel Tower and stuff like that, and I've gotten to do that now. I get to go to like Disneyland, and I can talk to people from like different countries. Like most of my friends are actually from different countries. I have friends from Estonia and Iraq and Turkey and Hungary and Poland and Romania and Germany, and they can teach you like other things. And it's just interesting just knowing like that you can talk to people that are from different countries, because in America I couldn't get that. Like people are like, oh, people from this country, well I understand like, oh, they're not that bad, like if they're gonna say something rude, like if like I have friends back in Arizona and they say something like rude about like one country, and I'm gonna be like, oh, they're not that bad, they're pretty nice people actually, and they got some really good food.
Yeah, did he mention really great food? Because he ain't lying, let me tell you. So as we're winding down here a little bit, I know my time is short. Dodea alumni are pretty incredible. There's a lot of famous people that actually came out of the Dodea system. But one thing I think that a lot of people overshadow is the fact that a lot of the students that we graduate, or actually just went through the system in general, they really leave with like really great skills, really great, people skills, worldly views, very, what's the word I'm looking for? They excel at a lot. And if you look at some of our higher ranking officers in the armed forces, you can see that a lot of them have, gone through a Dodea school, or they're military brats and that kind of stuff. Some famous alumni. There's Shaquille O'Neal. He actually played basketball freshman sophomore year at Fulda. This is Admiral Stavridis. I put him in here for Charlotte because he's Navy, but he was also the Supreme Allied Commander. Really nice guy. He was at Shape for 3-4 years. And if you look at all these folks that graduate from this system, I think that it does a really good job of educating kids with a different perspective that you wouldn't get in a stateside school. So in conclusion, I don't know, I know I don't have, I so wish I had more time to talk to you guys about this stuff. In my personal opinion, Dodea is a world-class school system. There's nothing like it anywhere on earth. Serving military families, I think, is without question one of the most, critical components to maintaining a healthy, vibrant U.S. Armed Forces. As much as people think about, we got to get, airplanes and tanks and things of that nature, and and soldiers, I don't think a lot of people really realize that the biggest thing we can do is support those families that are doing that important work, and by doing that, it makes everything better. It just does. I can tell you that even as a teacher in that system, I wasn't, I had no idea about the world beyond Arizona until I moved to Belgium. And what was supposed to be a 1-year tour duty ended up being 10 years because I loved it so much. And I loved it so much because I love the people. And I love the fact that, we were all there to serve our country and to help these kids, and more importantly, to help these families that we're doing this important work for our nation and our country. So, all right, you guys, I'm gonna tie it off right here and I'll let you guys go. I just want to say thanks again for following along my brief, and I'm so bummed that we all can't be at Card Rock together, but I hope you enjoy the rest of the program, and I will hopefully see you guys all very soon. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.